Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today we discuss a 2021 model year limited edition of 300 pieces in stainless steel from Ulysse Nardin. This is the Marine Torpilleur Moonphase, a watch that is alternately romantic and very practical, a reference to Ulysse Nardin's long history of chronometers, first for navigation at sea and laterally for the wrist. We'll talk all about that as well as torpedo boats in a moment, but first the size. 42 millimeters in diameter, but here's where the surprises come. It's only 11.5 millimeters thick and from lug to lug at 47.2 millimeters, one of the shortest lug-to-lug measurements I've seen on a 42 millimeter case that actually has lugs. So it'll fit on a small wrist, 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. The strap is still very stiff, as you can see, so I'm gonna have to pull it a little tight and exaggerate the width of the watch by compressing my wrist, but rest assured, my wrist is 16 centimeters. This watch would fit just fine. Better, in fact, as the strap breaks in on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, and it's thin enough that even without a sloped flank, it will slide under a cuff. Here we have large rectangular symmetrical scale alligator leather, so this is an expensive cut. Money was spent here. Matte finish, medium blue, a little contrasting binding stitch at each end of the strap, but then most of the stitch is monotone with a sheer cut edge and lacquering for refinement. Calfskin on the bottom, no crimping, no gouging, brand new UN factory strap. The buckle, it's steel, trigger release, so it cannot open inadvertently, a double fold, so it's less likely to pinch your wrist. I find single folds can be big wrist pinchers. And then there's a ceramic spring-loaded pin snap bead on each side of this part of the closure, so the ceramic cannot be worn down by the steel. This will always have a tight, snappy tolerance. Note the presence externally of both satin and polish on the buckle. You will also find it on the case. The lug hoods are satin finished, the flanks are polished. You can see the original shipping stickers are still on the watch. I apologize for that, but I'm gonna let you take them off. As the new owner, you deserve that. The case itself, take away the lugs, is designed to echo Ulysse Nardin's historic marine chronometers or deck navigation clocks. Dating from the 19th century, UN, whose modern logo is of course the anchor, UN was a prolific manufacturer of the best navigation chronometers. At sea, in order to gauge longitude, you needed the time at the prime meridian. So it was very important to set your chronometer to the prime meridian's Greenwich Mean Time as you left port, and it needed to be able to hold that time. Local time was easy to figure out, but you needed to hold Greenwich Mean Time. And a variation of just 4 seconds could lead to an error of 4 nautical miles, so this was serious stuff. As a result, UN chronometers were widely trusted for navigation at sea, including by navies, which is where the term torpilleur becomes part of the heritage. That means torpedo boat en français. And so torpedo boats were created in the late 19th century as fast, highly maneuverable, and powerfully armed vessels, the premise being a small boat with a torpedo could even sink a battleship. And so torpedo boats, of course, needed to navigate at sea too, so they had deck chronometers, and the U.S. Navy, among others, used Ulysse Nardin as a supplier. Torpedo boats required navies to develop larger, more heavily armed vessels called torpedo boat destroyers to destroy the torpedo boats. Well, torpedo boats largely passed into history, but torpedo boat destroyers, later shortened to destroyers, became a staple of modern navies. And so if you've seen a DDG-51 Arleigh Burke-class destroyer in the U.S. Navy, it came out of this era. That's where that terminology of ship class originates. Now, the deck clocks in 1996 inspired the Ulysse Nardin Marine Chronometer, an anniversary limited edition. And so that was an ability that Ulysse Nardin coined to turn a deck clock into a wristwatch. And so if you take away the lugs here, you have the shape of the original deck clocks, you have the knurled bezel, you have the dial, which is very similar, with a power reserve at the top, running seconds at the bottom, hour and minutes in the center. We have a large, plain, easily calibrated 60-minute, 12-hour dial. And then in profile, we have a number plate held by blued screws. These are all elements from the marine chronometers that Ulysse Nardin built for ships, but then also the marine chronometers in wrist format that UN has been building since 1996. This is a swimmable watch, 50 meters water resistant, but with a screw down crown, which means it is surface swimmable. Of course, we also have a dial that is white varnished, and UN is very clear about that. This is not one of their enamel dials. It is a white varnish, so a type of lacquer. We have the Roman numerals, including a watchmaker's 4. And then we have a Moonphase inside of the small seconds. Now, you may ask, well, Tim, is this a chronometer, or are they playing with language? Because it says chronometry. There is a COSC certificate with this watch. It is a genuine chronometer, 5-position adjusted movement, and certified. And keep in mind, chronometer pertains to the movement when we talk about a chronometer wristwatch. We have a power reserve up at the top, up and down, automatic windings, caliber 119, a UN manufacturer movement, 1 barrel, bidirectional automatic winding with a magic lever style system and ceramic rotor bearings for efficiency, 60-hour power reserve. Now screw out the crown here, and you can see that we do have a stop seconds function. We also have a quick set, so you can bidirectionally quick set the Moonphase. That's one of the few times I've seen a bidirectionally quick settable moon. And then we turn it back over, and you can see caliber 119. Distantly Le Mans based. It is a large movement, and you can see UN has made quite a few upgrades. So we have bidirectional winding via the magic lever style winding system, which is very efficient, made more so by the ceramic bearings. We have a white gold, uniquely decorated rotor with a combination of cold enamel around the anchor logo and different types of finish executed on different parts with no fewer than 3 anchors. Taking a look at the movement now, you can see it's been upgraded with a full balance bridge and a free-sprung balance for both precise adjustment and shock resistance. UN using its own silicon technology here, yes, for the anti-magnetic hairspring, but for also a piece you can't see, which is the escapement. We have a full silicon escapement that is coated in synthetic diamond and able to operate completely unlubricated. So anti-magnetic, but also super low oscillating mass and low friction. Very impressive stuff. It beats away at 4 hertz, and you can see it pivots on 45 joules, so it is heavily jouled. This is a watch that is full of tricks, an homage to the past, including Ulysse Nardin's past with navies, such as the U.S. Navy, and I am former U.S. Navy, so I find that very, very cool, but is also a modern, complicated chronometer for the wrist. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.